From the bright minds and marketing mavericks at SMPS New York, this is the Marketing Department. We're a team of marketing and business development professionals bringing you everyday conversations from a unique industry. Architecture, engineering, and construction, or AEC for short. The Marketing Department is produced through collaboration with SMPS New York, which offers members professional development, leadership opportunities, and marketing resources to enhance their careers.
Welcome to the Marketing Department anniversary episode. I am Monica Griffith, Marketing Director at Gensler, and I have the pleasure of moderating this episode, giving the audience an inside scoop on how this podcast was born, the creators behind it, and some takeaways that will hopefully inspire you, your friends, colleagues, or company to start its own podcast. But first, let me introduce you to our incredible team of creators. These ladies are some of the most intelligent, imaginative, inspiring women I know, and to be among them is rewarding in itself. These ladies lift you up, cheer you on, and are there for you when you need them. I couldn't be surrounded by more amazing ladies like yourselves, and I have SMPS to thank for it. And if you haven't listened to the Marketing Department origin story, remember to take a few minutes to listen to that episode. So, first, I'm going to introduce you to these lovely ladies: Allie, the pioneer, Christy, the predator, Kim, the negotiator, Christiana, the dread pirate, Melissa, the link, Alicia, the alchemist, Monica, the seer, which is myself, Jen, the visionary. And so I want you all to introduce yourselves and tell us all a little bit about who you are, your background, your sun sign, your celebrity crush, your favorite cereal or food, and some of the podcasts you listen to. So first up is Allie.
Hey everyone, my name is Allie. I am a senior marketing coordinator with Ware Malcolm, a national design firm, and I am a Scorpio. And my celebrity crush is a little bit obscure, but it is a character in a 1997 movie called The Borrowers. It was the Audi borrower named Spiller, and I just realized that also Tom Felton is in this movie. If you want to look it up.
Awesome. Thanks, Allie. And next is Christy.
Hi, I'm Christy Cerullo. I'm the marketing manager at First Environment. Let's see. My sun sign is Cancer. I don't really eat cereal, but if I
Favorite
had
food?
to,
Favorite food then?
pizza.
Okay, that's a good one.
And celebrity crush, I'm gonna go with Jeff Goldblum, circa Independence Day, the
Oh,
Jurassic Park era.
wow,
Yeah.
that's a good one.
Bringing it back
Very
to the
tasteful.
80s.
I vouch for that. Very tasteful.
All right, thank you. Kim.
Hi, I don't know how I follow that up. I am Kim. I'm the Director of Marketing at RSC Architects and the Director of the New Jersey affiliate. My sun sign is a Taurus. I am very stubborn. I'm going to say my favorite food, because I don't eat cereal either, is sushi. And I'm going to go with my celebrity crush as Paul Rudd, both 1990s Paul Rudd and today Paul Rudd.
Yeah, I mean, he looks exactly the same, so it doesn't really matter. He's adorable. I love him. All right, Christiana.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christiana Formica, marketing coordinator at Gensler. Um, I am a Virgo Sun, Scorpio Moon, really into astrology. Oh, I'm the Dread Pirate because of the Princess Bride movie, if you've seen that. I always have to explain that story. That Wesley was the Dread Pirate Roberts because he took his mask from somebody else, and I'm just currently leading the podcast. And I'll continue with my random fun facts. I don't know if I have a favorite food as much now that I'm vegan. I feel like I eat everything now that I didn't used to eat. And celebrity crush, Michael Fassbender.
Which we all just looked up before this started recording, and he is pretty cute. So we'll vouch for that. Melissa.
I have to say, Christiana, Princess Bride is one of my favorite movies. And since I missed this planning meeting, I was like, I wonder if Dread Pirate is a reference to Princess Bride. um, Hi, everyone. My name's Melissa Whitman. I am a proposal manager at PwC. I am a Scorpio, even though I don't really feel like one. My favorite food slash cereal, I'd say Honey Nut Cheerios is my favorite, with some bananas and strawberries. Um, my celebrity crush is Riz Ahmed. He is a British Pakistani actor. He's most recently in The Sound of Metal. He was fantastic in it. He was also the lead guy in The Night Of, which was an HBO limited series, which was amazing.
I support this. Yes.
Awesome. Alicia.
Okay, mute off, just checking. So I'm Alicia. I'm a marketing specialist at Gensler. My sun sign, I'm on the cusp of being both Capricorn and Aquarius, which, fun fact, is called the cusp of mystery and imagination. Yes, there are different names for every single cusp. Look it up.
What? I had no
Yep,
idea.
it's
That's
a
so amazing.
whole thing.
I love that, and I'm looking into it right
I
after this.
know. Please, we need to hear more, Christiana. You need to look that up.
Yes,
Go ahead.
absolutely. I really was stumped by the celebrity question. If I could go back, I would take Kim's answer because Paul Rudd is amazing at any time. I'm actually going to say my celebrity girl crush, which related to Paul Rudd, is Leslie Mann, especially in This Is 40 and Knocked Up. So I do really love podcasts. My very favorite podcast, shout out to Literary Friction, which is a monthly podcast about culture, books, and other interesting topics, and they record in London.
Awesome. And Jen, our visionary.
Hey guys, good morning. I'm Jen Menino. I'm the Assistant Vice President of Marketing at Land Associates. It's a Northern New Jersey architecture and engineering firm. Let's see. This is the bar is set really high coming in last for introductions. So my sun sign's Aquarius. I honestly don't know too much about what that means, so that might say something about myself. My favorite cereal is Honey Nut Cheerios, just like Melissa, with some strawberries, blueberries on top. Love that. And celebrity crush, Derek Jeter. I'm a longtime Yankees fan, and I just love his character, who he is, and what he stands for. Upset that he's not playing anymore, but he's who comes to my mind when I think of that.
Awesome. Thanks, Jen. I'm also an Aquarius, and I actually didn't go, so I'll let you know. I am really into it, but I don't know enough of it, horoscopes and astrology. So I defer to Christiana, who is really into it, and I let her tell me what's up. My favorite cereal is Apple Jacks. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of like a total kid thing. I keep buying it and buying it until like my tongue is like scraped off from all the sugar. It's amazing. My celebrity crush, I mean, Paul Rudd is really good. I mean, I love him. I really do. I really didn't know what to say, and pathetically, I want to say The Rock because I love him in all the movies. I
This
know
part
it's
is so fun. Can we keep talking about hot celebrities for the rest of this?
um, it's funny enough, though, I have to say that I didn't listen to many podcasts before this. It's kind of pretty pathetic, but I listened to the radio. So to me, when you guys were like, yeah, let's start a podcast, you guys were all like, did you guys listen to some podcasts? I was like, yes, I listened to one, and I told you what I liked about it. So. All right, that's enough about me. Let's continue. So we're going to hear a little bit about how we actually, what started us all on this podcast. Allie, Christy, do you guys want to say what was the impetus to get us started on this podcast?
I think we call it a dark and stormy night, right, Christy?
Or like the sketchy alleyway discussion.
Yeah. Definitely what it felt like. Well, we were at I think it was a event or an SMPS committee meeting, and I just been thinking about how this team has so many amazing conversations that happen at just different SMPS events, and they're so secluded, and it just would be great to have a way to share those with people who can't make the meetings and be where we are. And we just came up with the idea of why don't we do a podcast? And so I pitched it to Christy one dark and stormy night in a creepy back alley, which is it was actually an office building, but it had those vibes. And she has a whole story about her thought process, which I didn't learn until much later after I told her that. But it was really it was my impression was that she said, "Yeah, absolutely, let's do it."
Yeah, and I think it felt like a daunting task at the beginning, but I knew one thing about this group is that when we all rally behind something, we can get a lot done. So I was interested to see how it would go with this project and what we would come up with together.
Yeah, the origin story, which is just a few minutes. I recommend everyone listen to it if you haven't yet. Really, Allie and Christy talk you through how this kind of came all about. But that's great. So, what are the few things that really has kept this group focused and moving? I'll pitch that to Christiana.
Oh my gosh. Well, what's funny for me about when we started the podcast is actually that was my first ever committee meeting with the New Jersey affiliate, um, where Christy just looked at Allie and was like, "Do you want to tell everybody what, this idea that you have?" And Allie pitched it, and we all were excited. And like I had just met everyone, you know, in the committee that night. It wasn't my first time meeting some of the members, but uh, yeah, I feel like we kind of formed the idea right there when Allie expressed that she wanted to share like everything that we had been talking about, all of our great ideas, all of the conversations that we're having, and getting them on a larger platform. And so we formed a mission around that after we got like all of us to everyone volunteered and showed up on the first call of like we wanted to get our first episode out there by a certain date. We formatted like what that episode would look like, and we really stuck to that mission. And I think that kept us like focused throughout when we were creating content and thinking about the music and everything.
Christiana, I totally forgot that was your first meeting. I was like, these people are crazy. What are they thinking?
That's a good meeting for her, though. She
Yeah,
hooked
yeah.
her. We hooked her from the first meeting, and then she kept coming
Oh,
back. So that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Do you remember Chris talking about the Predator van?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
that was the
that was
night.
your first exposure to the
Yes.
New Jersey affiliate.
That was
Can we just explain the Predator van? It was a
Yes.
van in which we would do our covert podcast work in, and that way we could travel to different places. But I just want to put into context that this was what, 3 years ago when we first started
Yeah.
planning this. So I
Yeah.
know now like lots of companies have podcasts and professional organizations do, but this was 3 years ago that we were like, hey, maybe we could learn about this new medium through creating one for SMPS and just kind of figuring out, how it worked. And, the fact that it took 2 years to get off the ground, and then we've been recording the podcast for a year now. So it just goes to show like just that how long things can take sometimes when you're really methodical and strategic about it.
Christy, just bring us back to why you're called the Predator and the name behind that. Because I think some people will listen and be like, why is Christy the Predator?
Some might say that I have a flair for the dramatic. and and I like to make things fun. So when we first started this, honestly, I was a little bit skeptical, and I was like, well, what if we try it and we don't get that far? So, so I was like, well, and then the other aspect was I kind of wanted it to be like something just for our group to work on and bond with and kind of experiment together without any other scrutinizing critical eyes. So I was like, let's work on it in secret. It'll be like our secret project that we, kind of like a secret superhero mission. So I just tried to think of a name, like a code name that started with this, same letter P as podcast. And the first one I thought of was Predator. I had never seen the Predator movies, but it felt like the spirit of it matched what I wanted to be the mood of this endeavor. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you.
And then you just add in the Predator van and like
Yeah,
completely magical first meeting for me.
I know. It's
To
and,
get
and if
roped
anyone's
into
and then
creating
if
a Predator.
anyone's listening, the Predator van doesn't sound super good. Sounds
I
a
mean,
little
it's
creepy. It's
It needed a little bit of a rebrand, let's
it
say.
did.
Yeah.
It did. And that's how we landed on the marketing department. Okay,
Much
that's
more
awesome.
marketable name.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. And
know.
actually, how did we come up with the marketing department? Does anyone remember? Can anyone share how the iterations we came up with?
I think we had a list of names. We had a
We
running
did.
list we were just adding to, and we had, word bubble, and we just knew we could not use the name Project Predator. It just couldn't go anywhere.
Yes, no.
Um, yeah. So I think we had, names that all sounded like the marketing department, and then that one would just resonated with us the most. It's how we felt in our firms. Whether we even had a team or we were the sole marketer in our firm, we knew that we were completely separate from the technical staff in a way.
That's great. I like that we did not stick with Predator, but I still love our cool side name. Now tell us a little bit about um, our challenges along the way, creating this podcast. Any hiccups we might have had? Anyone want to talk about it? Jen, Melissa, everybody. Anyone want to jump in?
I can jump in terms of the fact that the first episode we recorded, it was myself, Jen, and Monica, and our little pancake. I think the biggest thing is that we wanted to start this podcast because we were having these great conversations, right? And then when we actually started recording, we were all a little nervous and anxious, and we might have over prepared a little bit, so we might have sounded a little, just kind of robotic in a way. Um, but it was great because this is how you learn things. Like, we realized that maybe we shouldn't have a completely scripted thing. Maybe we should just do bullets. Because I know for myself, I did a whole script and I practiced it, and it sounded great when I was practicing. And then when we hit record, I was nervous and I went by my script and I missed words and I sounded robotic as hell, right? So I think that we kind of learned that. And then we might have, had a couple drinks to relax and then maybe got a little too off topic, or
Couple drinks.
it was it was really fun. And I'm really proud of that pancake, even if, it was a little small and droopy.
There were so many lessons learned from that. I mean, that was a very important episode to do. Not even just because of the topic. I mean, the topic you did was important, of course, but everything that we got out of that first episode. I mean, every episode since we've taken the lessons learned and really, I think, mastered it now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even early on, before it was just Jen, Melissa, and myself, we all recorded various times, just us talking. And I honestly don't remember how many recordings we actually made it till we realized we need to get more focused and we needed to just be like 3 or 4 people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, everything was quite interesting in that aspect. Any other challenging parts of this podcast that you guys would like to share with our audience?
I just think that, what's great takeaway from that first little pancake is like, that's when, even though we weren't all on the recording and we didn't all sit in on the many recording sessions that you guys were in, that was really where we gained like a process and figured out like,
Yeah.
this is how we can calm down our nerves and manage ourselves. And then this is also how we can manage other people. So when people
Right.
are coming in, they're like, how do I talk? Like, what do you mean you want me to be on an episode? I mean, I kind of want to be on an episode for my career and everything else, but I'm nervous. I don't know what to say, like that sort of thing. And I feel like we got all of that out in the first episode. And I'm glad we are also able to finally get it to a place that we could publish it. So it is like a published episode, and is not just a pancake anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to give some context to why we're calling it a pancake, because there's this, anecdote about how like when you're making pancakes, the first pancake is always like a little bit screwy and weird. Either it's too burnt or it's all, weird shape. So our first pancake episode was was it called 360 Marketing? What was the title? It's
It was
published
called Multifaceted
with the
Marketer.
multifaceted
Yeah.
marketer. Yeah,
But
so
it
that
wasn't
was
really the first one either, if anyone's going back to the lineup. It's
right.
probably,
It's the first one
yeah.
that we recorded, but it came later in the queue, so you might be able to tell listening to it that it has a little
Yeah.
bit of a little
A
different vibe
feel.
to it.
Yeah,
So that was our
definitely.
first one.
Yeah. Going back to how, Christiana, we were talking about, like, how do we go through, finding speakers and stuff? Does anyone want to talk about how we go about doing that process and how do we prep speakers and our learning curve was strong with the first one. So we brought through the process. I want to walk us through how we prep the speakers.
I can take that, Monica. One thing that we do have is we have a worksheet that we created on how to start an episode. So that kind of helps for all of our new speakers we have coming in who maybe aren't on the podcast, that aren't the 8 of us. And that involves developing an episode excerpt, how to set up meetings and create like a rough episode outline, maintaining the balance, like as Melissa mentioned in the first episode, of kind of like ad-libbing and being free form and having that script. So you sound like natural and conversational, which is, part of what we wanted for our podcast.
Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
How do we prepare the moderator? So I think almost all of us, well, most of us have been a moderator on an episode. How do you prepare to be a moderator?
I guess I can take that one.
Yeah, go ahead, Melissa. Yeah.
Because I think I was a moderator on a couple. How did I prep for that? Well, I got, my little fancy equipment here. And I just practiced on that. I practiced some like voice exercises and really trying to figure out your tone of voice and your volume too. Because you could be screaming or you could be, I found I was really, really soft. So I'd have to, kind of adjust that a little bit. And then, yeah, just making sure it's tough when it's really tough to be a moderator, right? Because you're asking questions. So you're kind of like a reporter in a sense, but you also have to have like a really well thought out response when the person you're speaking to gives you that response rather than just saying like, oh, cool, or like, oh, that sounds good. Or great point. You have to kind of add a little bit and you have to have those transitions into the next question. So it is pretty hard. And I mean, the first time it might be a little wonky, but once you do it a couple times, and if you're comfortable with the subject matter too, a little bit of research helps, you'll be able to add to the conversation instead of just interviewing the person. So I don't know if that answers the question, but
It does. The other thing I want to mention, when people are listening, they can't see your cool setup. Can you talk us through that?
oh, sure. Yeah, when we first started the podcast, I stuck with just a headset. And then I kind of found that this little guy kind of, depending on where it was, would make me sound muffled. So I Googled really like super beginner podcast equipment and I found this really great microphone. So yeah, anyone who's actually watching can see it. It was like 20 something dollars on Amazon
It's super easy to set up. It makes the audio just sound really crisp and clear, and it's easy to travel with. It's great, yeah. And this is the main thing I use. I don't use anything fancier than this, just headset and $20 microphone.
And this microphone, it's a little bigger for people who can't see. So, right? It's like
Yeah, so
literally
if
like
I
a mic with a little boom thing at the end. Okay, it's like
Exactly.
a stand. Okay. Yeah,
Exactly, and I
that
set
looks
it up
really
myself. It's not hard to do. Yeah, so you just
that
stick the little microphone in there
that
and you
looks
have the little
pretty
mesh guy.
professional, I must say.
It sounds
It
really
looks
great.
like
Yeah.
it looks like
Can
what
you record some slow
sportscasters use.
jams on that for us?
I know, right?
Be like, welcome back to 95.2.
You are totally like on the radio. That's amazing. Well, for other people who have been moderators, most of us have just been using our headsets, right? Anyone else? Yeah. Okay. And we have been recording on. Does anyone want to jump in and tell people how we actually record these and our cool tech?
Yeah, we're super high tech here. Well, and we've talked about this before, that our team is a little unique. We're not a firm with a budget. We're a nonprofit group, and we're doing this in our free time as volunteers. So it does impact what equipment we're using and our thought process behind picking technology. So the other piece of this is that when we started this podcast, we intended to be meeting in person and sitting across from each other. And then I don't know if anybody's heard, but in 2020, there was a pandemic that hit. And it's meant to be funny. Everybody's laughing because hopefully you should know about that. Thank you.
I had no idea.
I was gonna say I didn't hear about that actually. Thank you
Yeah.
for letting us know.
Look it up. There's a couple articles about it. Anyways, but well, by the time we started recording it, the pandemic was here, so we could not sit across from each other and record this. And we ended up using a combination of Zoom and Teams and recording bits and pieces even on our cell phones. We had to get a little bit creative. And then beyond the recording piece, when we were doing the editing, and Melissa, I think you might use something different from me, but when I did editing, I did it on Audition, Adobe Audition, which I have access to through work, thankfully. So we did the whole podcast. I think the total cumulative money we've spent has been, Melissa, you have a $20 mic, and I think I got a $20 mic. So I think our whole budget's been like $40.
Yeah. The audio editing tools, Allie, you use Adobe Audition. I used Premiere Pro actually because that came with my Adobe suite from work. And yeah, I mean, it's been great. It's what's great about Adobe products too is that they have these tutorials built in, right? So you can kind of just, if you know nothing about it, you can just go in, try a couple tutorials, and then once you actually just start editing audio, you can just go on YouTube and quickly watch a couple videos if you run into any, roadblocks. So yeah, it didn't cost us much.
So the point of that is that Melissa and I think both of us, neither of us have any background in editing audio.
Nope.
And for the
you taught
podcast, we
yourselves.
learned.
Yeah,
We learned.
right. And Jen, you
Exactly.
did too, right? You
Mhm.
also edited a few. And did you do it on the same platforms that Allie and Melissa did?
Yeah, so I have little unique, just a digital media background. So I've done some video editing and things like that. But yeah, I've used just a part of Adobe Creative Suite that I have myself, Adobe Premiere, and do all my editing there. So
Great. And just for background for everybody, how long does it take you guys to edit an episode? How many hours?
too long.
I know, I'm sure.
It depends on how long the podcast is.
Yeah.
Like sometimes, like the 30-minute podcasts won't take too long, but I think we had one that was maybe 2 hours. And it also depends on how you want to do it. I mean, sometimes it takes 2 hours, sometimes it takes four. It really just depends on how much you want to cut out and how natural you want it to be. It really just depends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like Kim was talking about, if you do prep work for your episode and your speakers beforehand, you can really cut down on the amount of editing that you have to do in the end. There have definitely been some episodes that we're cutting a 2-hour audio clip down to 45 minutes, which doesn't sound like much if you've not done any audio editing, but it really takes a lot. You have to be particular about what content you're taking in and out. And if you do that prep work and really have speakers and a moderator that have practiced and done some work together, then it makes things a lot easier.
Yeah. Also, as the audio engineer, you can kind of direct comments back from people to be a little bit more specific. So that's another learning curve, is that I kind of learned, okay, I'll we'll have people review the audio, right? And then include timestamps for me. So I know, hey, cut this part out, or, move this part over here. And that makes it a lot easier. And I think the first time we didn't really have that direction yet. So it was
Yeah.
kind of just going in blindly. So we kind of got a process started from the editing side that now it's much quicker.
Yeah, talking about that process really helped moving forward. I feel like we just started doing that a few episodes ago, really having that like third person who's not involved in the podcast for that really listen to it and give feedback and give that pieces to edit out, because sometimes we go off topic here and there, and it's good to just have someone else just take that piece out. So that's great. Going back to our episodes, how do we decide on what content we put out? Does anyone want to take that? How do we put the calendar together?
Well, I mean, in the beginning, we did map out some episodes we wanted to do. Like, I really loved women in the workforce, and I'd love Alicia to talk about that because I know that she was like a huge part behind that. So we had ideas initially, but then we started interviewing some recommended speakers as well, and that drove some of the episodes to like the stories that connect, the episode about like PR and communications and how you're marketing all of your stories. That was driven by me like meeting and interviewing people that I didn't know, but they were recommended as industry professionals, and um, that's where they specialized, and that's completely out of my wheelhouse. So I was like, you sound like the expert on this. And then it happened again. And then it happened again. And I was like, I'm going to put all three of you together and you're going to do an episode. And it was really cool.
Yeah, another thing that we did early on when we were planning the podcast and kind of coming up with how we wanted it to be and who we wanted it to be for is that we really spent a lot of time thinking about our audience, our target audience, who we wanted to reach. And we actually went through the exercise of developing personas. So if you're not familiar with that process, we basically built out three people with actual personalities and jobs and personal lives, and they represented our audience. So they represented marketers in different types of industries and firms and roles in their firms. And we thought about why do they listen to podcasts, what kinds of questions would they have, what types of episodes would they be interested in, what are the challenges that they face in their jobs. And it really got us out of thinking about what we would want and what we would want to listen to, and thinking about our audience and what they would be interested in and benefit from. And that really helped us gain a better perspective on our audience and the types of speakers that we want to have on this podcast. And we revisit those personas. We gave them names, we gave them faces. One of them is Kerry Washington's character from Scandal, because I was watching a lot of Scandal at the time. But we really revisit those people and think, what would they want to hear? And I feel like that was a really helpful tool for us that we used in the beginning and going forward.
Yeah, can you mention the other two personas? I remember remember the other personas, but just for our audience, do you remember the other?
So our personas, one was kind of a senior C-level marketing director at an architecture firm. One was a junior marketer at more of like a niche sub-consultant kind of DBE type of firm. And one was maybe a mid-level like business developer, sales type professional at a multidisciplinary engineering firm. So we thought about the diversity of our audience and tried to reflect that in our personas as well as in our speakers.
I think those are really good points. To Christiana's kind of earlier discussion about how we're building the list of topics, I think a lot of those topics do come out of things that we're super passionate about. But then, for example, me and Monica are talking right now about how to do an episode that's about diversity. It's really interesting how, our shared background of marketing really kind of translates into these like shared passions, which I think the episode That's Not Marketing is a really good depiction of. For anyone who hasn't listened to it, go back and listen to that one. If you're in marketing, you will completely identify with all of the challenges of our jobs, of just explaining to people, no, this is our job, not that. And I think, I love how all of these things combine to be hopefully something that's really interesting to the people who are listening to our podcast.
Yeah, that was a really good one because we all can attest to being asked something that is really not market and more administrative at hand, and we have to say no. So I really do recommend going back to that episode. But Alicia, we actually talked about women in the workforce. Christiana had mentioned that one, and that's an awesome one that you were on as well. Can you talk us a little bit about that one? And specifically, I just want to say, learning from that one, I feel like we learned you had a really good intro about facts that really helped us move forward in other episodes. So that example from women in the workforce really pushed us forward. Do you want to talk about how that went about?
Sure. So I felt really inspired to bring that forward as a topic because I had just read Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In, which is a pretty well-known title. It got a little bit of different feedback, but it had been also very topical in the news because of the coronavirus and just like a lot of things around, a childcare crisis that was going on that was really keeping women from necessarily reaching their full potential. And the news had brought that to the forefront. So I felt like it was really topical and timely. One of the things that we talked about a lot when we were recording that was, well, when this actually comes out, like how timely is this going to feel? And I think that's something that we go through with a lot of our subjects and topics for podcasts is like how to talk about things in a way that's going to be relevant for a long time.
That's going to be relevant, I think, for a very long time.
Yes, it's
Unfortunately, just the biases, but still, I think that was an amazing episode. I really enjoyed it. So again, if you haven't listened to that one, please go back to that one. So we talked a lot about the podcast, how we created it and stuff. And I know a few of you were just stars at NERC, and we're giving a lovely presentation and speakers. And I just wanted to ask, what was the feedback you got from the podcast itself? It's our anniversary. It's our first year. And so we've had a lot of good feedback, but there's been some other feedback that I want to kind of pinpoint to. So if anyone would like to take that.
Kim, are you going to tell the story?
Sure. I will do this in the most tactful way as possible, and we can redo this as necessary. NERC was a really great time. Christiana and Christy and I were in Lake George last month, kind of presenting how to develop a podcast if you wanted to do that for your firm. And we received a ton of wonderful feedback, not just from NERC, but along the way from our committee, our peers, the larger chapter, people we've never met in real life who have shouted us out on LinkedIn, which has been really encouraging and has kept us going. and that, the conversations that we have as a part of our knowledge sharings could be shared with everyone, which is really kind of a driving force, and why Allie had this idea to share the stories that we have in our committee meetings on a larger platform for everyone. And, of course, there's been some bad along with the good, right? So a piece of feedback we received was that our caricature post announcing the anniversary episode that we had celebrating 1 year of the marketing department lacked diversity. And that was actually, it's the first time in a year of creating the podcast that we had shown our faces. So that was some tough feedback to receive.
Yeah, and for anyone who didn't see the post, it was basically a picture of a characterized version of all of our faces with our cute little nicknames. And the feedback was that we were not representing a diverse enough group.
And that we all looked the same, right?
And that our hair all looked the same.
The same, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, really?
And-
Our hair?
Yeah, it's really
I think
silly.
it was just the we'll call it filter for lack of a better word, or the artistic filter in probably Photoshop that kind of created us kind of all to have a form of our hair to look a little bit similar, even though you can probably tell right now that most of our hair is different.
We had been doing this for a year and we hadn't shown our faces or told anyone who we were. And we wanted to connect more with our audience so that they could engage with us, be on the podcast, be in an episode, share your voice. We want to get to know you. And the only way we could do that is if you know who we are, right? So.
Exactly. And I think 3 of us are Latina, so that doesn't help very much, but a little bit diversity within.
I think it's also important for us to like just recognize that our industry, architecture, engineering, and construction, it's the stats for women in our industry are extremely low. It's about 30% or less, and it's been hindering on that percentage for many years, decades. So when we look at marketing for AEC, it shifts a little bit. I mean, I don't know the statistics within SMPS, nationwide or within New Jersey and New York, but primarily you will see, I don't think anyone would argue that most of SMPS members are women, which is, it's actually really great to see with just comparing the statistics against it being a male dominated industry.
Yeah, absolutely. AEC is inherently men, so go ahead.
Which is actually great that, so many women feel like they have an organization like SMPS that's really there to help support them in their careers. Not trying to do the SMPS sell or anything here, but, I think, to be honest, that's why we're all part of SMPS, is we feel like it's, we're ambitious women who want to support our careers. And hey, that's why we're here.
That's right. Are we the first SMPS chapter to have a podcast? Does anyone know?
Yeah, I believe we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when we were first getting ready to launch or coming, I think it was around when we were branding and coming up with the name and looking at other podcasts, we were kind of curious and we did some research then. And I remember seeing one episode of another SMPS chapter podcast, but it didn't seem like an ongoing series. It seemed like kind of a standalone episode. I actually haven't done research since then, but I remember when we were kind of looking into that to see if we were the first. So I will cautiously say that we're the first to have a running, consistent chapter podcast. So yes.
Yes.
If we can do it, anyone can do it.
Exactly. Talking about that, what's our cadence? Tell us about the cadence of our episodes so people know.
Allie loves to talk about the tone and the feel. We did a lot of research for that. Allie, jump in.
Oh, well, and when we're talking about cadence, are we talking about frequency of publishing?
Frequency of publishing. Okay. And where are we published? I haven't gone there. But if you're listening, I'm pretty sure you know where we're published, but that's okay.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, if you're listening, then this is where we're published.
Yeah.
But this again goes back a little bit to the technology piece, where we wanted to make sure that we could get published on, obviously, as many available platforms as possible. So the top podcasting platforms right now, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts are the three top ones. And so we found a website that handled all of the publishing and doing RSS feeds for us and automatically pushing new episodes, which was really important to our process because it allowed us to quickly get things online. And it also, from a training standpoint, if we need somebody else to publish an episode, or as we're growing and changing, other people can easily get on that platform and use it without having to learn really technical, anything even remotely technical. If you can work a web browser, you can publish our podcast. So that was really important. And then talking about frequency of publication, again, so as with any media, social media, thought leadership, press that you're doing, the goal is consistency. So we wanted to commit to a publication frequency that we could maintain. So we decided to do every other month because we knew we could do that with our volunteer schedules. We and having full-time jobs that frequently involve overtime, not to mention several of our team members will have side gigs and other jobs and maybe a kid or two here and there.
And we have 2 pregos.
Yes, we're going to have a whole legion of babies here pretty soon. So we committed to every other month, and then actually this year Christiana has gotten us to we've done an episode every month, right? Almost.
We did our bonus episode, and I think that nearly pushed us over the edge. So please volunteer to join us, everyone listening.
Yeah, exactly.
Please join our family.
Exactly.
So that
Everyone is hiring, including the podcast.
Yes,
Right,
we need
exactly.
resources.
That is
You guys, I
awesome.
think that's such a great point. So if people are interested in learning more about what we do, should they email us?
Absolutely. Email us
Yes.
at themarketingdepartmentpodcast@gmail.com.
And that will
Yeah.
be in the comment section.
Yes, that was actually a great segue. What are our plans for expanding the podcast?
Well, this right here definitely promoting. Hopefully, people are interested. I definitely, I struggle between saying we and I because I'm currently like, the Dread Pirate. But yeah, I want to have more conversations. I love interviewing people from across the country. I love meeting different people and hearing their stories. And I just want to share more of them. It's just, it can't be like, a few person show like running the ship. And I say that because, there's 8 of us, but we can't all 8 be working on every single episode. We have other things to do. We have to split the work. And I feel us growing. I feel the momentum is there. And I just hope that that means that people do want to get on board with us to keep it going. It may get to a point where we're doing like one-on-one conversations because rather than groups, we really wanted to stick to groups for a while and get like a diverse set of voices and diverse thinkers. But now it's like, okay, I want to get more content. I'm so excited. I love talking to people and I love hearing their stories. Like, let's just get it all out there, you know?
Mm-hmm. That's actually what has been, because of what you just said, what has been the most surprising reward from this experience? And I feel like I'm gonna go to a few of you on that. But Christiana, since you were just talking, how about you just finish that thought? Because I feel like you were right there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that like everything I just said, that was it. Like I love I had no idea creating this podcast was going to bring me to meeting all of these different people and hearing their stories. I had no idea that for me, like that's the most touching part. Like I love learning what people are doing in their careers, learning about their success stories, learning about what they're passionate about. And yeah, of course, we talk about the pitfalls too. We have our little venting session and we talk about how to lift each other up and get out of those situations. But it's so positive to create such a community. I feel like, you know, we created a little mini family within us here, and we're expanding our community so much. And it just makes me feel like I can be better and more inspired in everything that I do, not just the podcast, but at work and even outside of work. So it's so unexpected.
It is. It was definitely. And
Yeah.
Melissa and Allie and Christy, Kim, Alicia, Jen, anyone else want to add on to that? Because I know, yeah, Christy, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll add, I feel like this process, it's made me like a better asset to my firm because I'm able to help my colleagues through developing different types of media and content. And I'm able to do it a little bit more smoothly, having gone through some of the challenges that we discussed earlier with this group in kind of the safe SMPS space. And so I'm able to bring it back to my firm and be like, hey, this is what I recommend. This is how I recommend going through this.
I was gonna say exactly the same thing Christy said, but also from a personal standpoint, um, I was able to try these things I've always wanted to try in a really safe space. So yes, I could bring it back to my work and say, "Hey, if anyone's interested in starting a podcast, I was in a group that started it, and here are some key takeaways." But also, hey, if you've ever wanted to do voice work, if you've ever wanted to start doing audio engineering work, like it was really fun to try these things in a safe space. And it really made me more confident in other areas of my life in general.
Yeah,
So
and just for the audience, Melissa says that she's an introvert and that she's shy, which none of us really believe because she is amazing. And actually, we have um, nicknamed her the voice because she just has this beautiful voice and presence. So we actually have her doing our intro and our outro to our podcasts, and she is just amazing. So I just want to give kudos to Melissa for not only being the editor but the voice.
I might edit that out.
Don't you dare! I will find you.
You're like, oh, they're talking about me? All right, I'll cut that out.
See, the introvert in her wants to cut that shit out. All right. Another thing I wanted
Monica,
to
I can
go ahead. Yeah.
I can add just one other
Yeah.
takeaway. I think it's just so powerful, like looking back now that we have episodes that are published,
Yeah.
the content that we're putting out across the variety of speakers, and knowing that those speakers are across a different levels of experience and sizes of firms. So, as a listener, I'm actively involved in helping to produce the podcast, but as a listener, taking a step back and really just soaking in the content that we're pushing out and like just hearing the perspectives and learning from different marketers in our industry of how us as marketers are doing things and getting things done, and then that value, bringing that back to our firms, like Christy was saying, whether it's something that we're doing as marketers or just content that we're hearing of how to make our firms more purposeful and thoughtful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I must say, since we're on the content, because again, I'm biased here, and I think our content's amazing. What is your favorite podcast so far that you have listened to and been a part of? I know it's a hard one to answer, so I'm not going to make everyone answer. But if you have a favorite, can you share it with us and why?
Okay, can I be biased and say,
Yeah.
I know I moderated the Liberty Ball episode or the Professional Achievement Award episode
Yeah.
that Jen and Christiana and Rebecca Leonardis were on, and they all won our Liberty Awards for 2021. And it wasn't just talking about the awards and the process, it was how did they get there in their career. And there was just so many wonderful takeaways of um, being uncomfortable and accepting new challenges. And I just think like the conversation that was had there transcended what the topic was as just an award submission and how you can kind of like parlay that into your career and grow. So I learned a lot, and I really enjoyed moderating that one. And yeah, I like
That
one.
was an awesome one. I recently just finally listened to that one, and that one was really, really, really nice. I was
Kim,
so
that one
proud.
was great. The storytelling was fantastic.
hmm
And then just it was really natural, the conversation. And at the end, just going through like different interview questions and things like that. I think it was really fun to listen to.
Anyone else have a favorite that want to jump in?
I'll share. I actually really like our first pancake episode, the multifaceted marketer. I knew it took a while to get there, but I just think it's so interesting to hear about how marketing is different in different types of firms. And those of you on that episode just really gave like kind of a cool insight into like, what your journey has been like, what it looks like for you. And I feel like that's one of the overall benefits of being part of this organization is just learning from each other and being able to bring that back to our firms.
That's so sweet of you to say. You didn't have to say that. The first pancake can quietly just live there.
It was
No
the first
shame.
pancake. It was the first pancake, but it had chocolate chips in it.
I like that. That's amazing. Anyone else want to mention?
I mean, I have only so far helped to put together women in the workforce, and obviously, Monica, we're in early talks about the diversity episode, but I really like that we can do episodes like that. This podcast is a platform for us to talk about topics that are important, that maybe, we all have diversity organizations within our organization and stuff like that. But, back to, I forget whose earlier point this was, maybe Melissa's, this is a safe space and we can talk about a lot more things
Yeah.
that we necessarily can't talk about within our firms or in the way that we want to talk about within our firms. So I think that that's such a great opportunity for us.
That's great. My other question was going to be, what would you tell someone else in the audience if they're thinking about starting a podcast? What would you tell them is the one thing that you, as a lesson learned, would share with them?
Find 8 other women who are also passionate about starting a podcast.
But
And have the same hair as you.
Yeah, same here. But Christy, that's so, it's like so ooey gooey to say, but it's so important to be passionate about this. Christiana's nodding her head. I mean,
Yes.
do people realize that the 8 people that are on this call, we have been on this podcast working on this for 3 years as a volunteer effort?
Let's
I mean,
also
the
point
fact,
out that it's 11 a.m. on a Sunday morning.
yeah. Christiana's
Commitment.
tireless efforts to get us all in the same room at the same time to record this have not been in vain.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah,
So
no,
true, but I just want to mention that the 8 of us are also, and selfishly, I'm just going to mention it, SMPS New York, New Jersey affiliate. So we were all had a strong bond already from our affiliate, and we decided to jump into this crazy, you know, endeavor and really kind of throw ourselves into it together. But there wouldn't, in my perspective, there wouldn't be any other women that I would want to do this with. Is my point. Like, you guys are amazing women, and I said that in the beginning, but really, there's no other crew that would be able to pull this off within, no offense, SMPS, except for this crew. But if you want to join and show us how awesome you are, please join, because we need the help.
prove Monica wrong. But to
We need
take
be
it back
careful.
from the lesson learned, I mean, you have to be, well, I guess you don't have to be, but what's made us, one of the reasons we are successful is that we are passionate, dedicated, we trust each other, and we have the relationship that we can pitch ideas and thoughts that I know that Jen is not going to be like, well, that's crap, or maybe she will, but we have the relationship that I'm like, okay, great, let's talk about why it's crap, and maybe it is crap.
Has Jen ever said it's crap? Poor Jen got called down. Jen's like, what?
she's,
I
she's
said
like, what's going on?
I have no comment.
That comment was crap.
I guess
All
what
right.
everyone's trying to say is cultivating a group of advocates, right, and resources that you can rely on to help that won't be us or as cool as us, but
Mhm.
Never.
But
we can
also, it's
bring them
important to
in and
note.
make them as cool
Yeah.
as us, for sure.
I was going to say it's important to note, like, we're all super close, but at the same time, we're very open to new people. Like,
Yes,
anyone that has
absolutely.
come to our committee meetings, I mean, sounds like Olive Garden, right? When you're here, you're family, but but like, I know that I've had friends that have come in from the industry and they were like, wow, the feedback was just that it wasn't clicky. Like, you guys were really friendly. And I felt like, again, it was a safe space to give these ideas. And anyone who's really interested in joining us, like, don't worry, it's not going to be like us and them. Like, you will be
Yeah,
fully
that
absorbed
is
into this
so true.
process. And it'll be super fun.
I mean, we got Christiane on the first meeting, so
Exactly.
that's pretty good.
can we get t-shirts made that say when you're here, you're family too? Like, we need t-shirts.
I know.
We're just gonna rebrand to the Olive Garden.
I know.
I
But I
love
mean,
that.
like, I've definitely been to networking events and meetings for other organizations that, I didn't feel as welcomed as I have with, the NJ affiliate. So,
Yeah, well, and this just makes me think like the t-shirts should say something like, we didn't need team building to get here. Like, I feel like we really built the culture that a lot of firms are trying to achieve.
mhm.
And like that's a big takeaway for me is like, I do feel good being here and I feel empowered to do my best work and show up as my best self. And it makes me want to do more, makes me want to show up more for you guys.
Yeah, we don't want to let each other down, right? I think that's part
Yeah.
of it too.
Yeah, that's very true. All right, I'm gonna try to wrap up. There's like one more question, then we're gonna do some rapid fire. Um, since this is a podcast for um, marketers, what would you give your younger self? What advice would you give your younger self starting out in the AEC industry? It's a tough one. While you guys
Join,
think about it, go
join
ahead.
SMPS. That is my.
All right.
I love
Okay.
that.
Actually, so we have a new hire starting, and he shadowed me before he was hired. So I was like, oh, I
Okay.
don't know. I didn't know if he was actually gonna, join the team. So
Uh-huh.
literally, but he had no marketing background.
Okay.
And he said, how do I get into the AEC industry? And I
Uh-huh.
think someone recently messaged me on LinkedIn and asked me a similar question. And I said, go to one of the SMPS like mixers that are free for new members.
Uh-huh.
It's the easiest way to meet people, talk to people, find out if you're even interested in this. Because I don't think people know, like when you guys first had your very first marketing coordinator job, did you know what a marketing coordinator did?
Nope, I had to figure it out. I got hired and then I was like, what is my job? And even my hiring principal was like, I don't know.
Oh my God. That's another story for another day.
Yes.
We need to hear that one.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good one. I like join SMPS. Anyone else for their younger self?
Yeah.
Yeah, Christine.
So my advice would be to trust your intuition. I would say, oh gosh, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, I was like Alicia said, I was a SMPS member, and someone asked me if I wanted to take more of a leadership role in the chapter and on this committee. And I just felt something in my gut that was like pulling me to say yes. And I've had a sense of intuition for all of you on this call when we first met, and convinced you all somehow to join me in this group, and I could have never predicted that this would have been the outcome. So I think a lot of times, especially when you're new in your career, people are telling you what to believe and what your instinct should be, but I think you have your own instincts that you should trust. When you have a certain feeling about a project or a teaming partner or pursuit, just listen to your gut, because it's smarter than you think it is.
I
I
love that one.
completely agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times like I was told something or told to edit something by a manager, or whether it was a you know my own instincts in a proposal or, or a graphic or whatever the case was. And I just felt like I really need to follow my instincts and just follow my own path. And it's paid off, and not only that, but like diversify who you're talking to. That was going to be like my point of advice, is that, you don't have to get bogged down in just what your firm is doing or what your one, like that, their mission or whatever the culture is. Like, obviously, like every company wants you to have buy-in into what they're doing. And, they say drink the Kool-Aid a little bit, figure out, the rules before you start to break them, and be, innovative. But yeah, diversify who you're talking to so you can learn outside of the script, right? I think if I had started that earlier, who knows where I would be. I mean, I don't live with regret that because I'm so happy to be here now. But that's one piece of advice I would have given myself.
That's great. Anyone else?
Mine would be to speak up. Like, if you have a great idea, say it. And I feel like, especially as we're, people who are younger in your careers, you have a unique perspective, and years of experience doesn't always equate to the leader you are. So speak up and embrace it.
Love that. Anyone else? I have one if you guys are done.
I could piggyback on Kim, but it's also, part of speaking up is asking questions. So
So very important, and not enough
so
people
yeah,
do
so
that.
important. So it's like having that confidence to ask the questions and to speak
Absolutely.
up. But that's the pathway that's gonna allow you to grow, like in your role. So don't be afraid to do more than what your job description says.
Mine was going to be push yourself to be uncomfortable, because when you are uncomfortable, that is when you grow and you learn. And you should do that early on instead of wait. I feel like I waited a bit to be uncomfortable. I like to be comfortable, but when you are put into an uncomfortable situation or spot, or pushed to do something that you don't want really to do, but later on you realize, wow, I just learned this immense amount of information that's going to make me grow. So that would be my advice. Okay.
How did we all become so wise? We're just like wonderful, wise women here, just giving our sage advice to the.
Christy, we don't have to add this episode, but something I think you said that was particularly impactful on me is that when we were recording the That's Not Marketing episode, at the end of the episode, you said, I had no idea how much good advice I had to give. And I was like, seriously, Christy? I'm like, you're what I think so many marketers aspire to be. Just, yeah, everybody's shaking their head, or nodding their head, excuse me. And I think, yeah, you're laughing because you're embarrassed. It's so true. I think another, going back to what we were talking about earlier, unexpected outcomes of the podcast, is that I feel like we might have all had a moment where we went, wow, we really know what we're doing and we have a lot to share.
Speaking specifically to Christy, she was my first manager in this industry. So I think when we talk about past selves and things like that, I was very lucky to start out with her as a boss, because she really helped me out. One, she introduced me to SMPS and everyone here, but also she gave me those tips and tricks to be more confident and just learn how to market myself. So so yes, Christy, you have great advice. You always have.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Then the cut point is here. We can get back.
All right, now I'm going to do some rapid fire. We're coming towards the end, so just a little rapid fire about. Now you could just shout these out all at once. You don't have to wait. Okay. Who's most likely to guess the wordle of the day?
Kimberly.
Kimberly.
I'll take it. I love Wordle.
Who's most likely to be on The Bachelorette? Christiana.
Way.
I answered.
I'll second
Sorry, I
that.
got excited
Noted.
about that
So
one.
the Bachelorette, where I'm saying yes or no to 20 different guys. Sure, I'll do it.
I do that right now. Better day.
I did that an hour ago. No, yeah.
Send your
I'd
application
watch
to the
that
marketing
one.
department podcast at gmail.com.
Yeah.
This actually almost became a Bachelor recap podcast. I don't know if you guys know.
All right. Who's most likely to share this episode on LinkedIn?
Melissa.
Christiana.
Melissa? Oh, yeah.
Christiana.
Christiana, yeah.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Most likely to give birth to a future podcaster? Melissa.
Melissa.
I'm gonna be a stage mom.
You're like dance moms, but for podcasts.
You've got the voice, you've got the mic. Yeah, I mean,
Most likely to curse on air?
Monica.
Monica, yeah.
You've got one curse word that needs to be edited out so far.
Sorry.
Doesn't
not
know.
bad.
This
That's
is an
not bad
adult
for me.
podcast.
Okay.
I don't know. We could keep them maybe. I don't know. I guess we could
You just
table
get the
that. but-
explicit logo on next to it.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
You're like, ooh, what's this episode about?
Ooh, I can put in a fun sound like a honk or something.
Oh my God, that would be
Oh, yeah,
funny,
you do.
actually. I'd love that. Who's most likely to have a White Claw in hand while recording?
Monica.
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 Been there, done that.
Kim.
Does not necessarily help.
No, it does not. I was slurring a little bit.
It was fun though.
I thought it was going to help. It did not help. Who's the most ruthless audio editor?
Allie.
Allie.
Yeah. Most likely to walk into the forest and never return? Christy.
Christy.
Yeah.
Christy.
Let me just go now. Let me just.
And most likely to do a crossover episode with a murder podcast?
Christy.
Melissa. I think Melissa.
I was
would.
going to say Melissa too.
I would say
Or
Christy
Kimberly.
myself. Or Kimberly.
All right.
Spin
That's
off.
it.
Yeah.
That's it for our anniversary podcast episode. Thank you everyone who has listened in. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Yay.
So much fun.
Love you all.
Spear fingers.
Can we do hearts?
Yeah, let's do it.
Jen's like,
This is
"What
screen
the-"
grab.
Jen's like, stop it.
If you have any feedback, questions, ideas, a great story, or just want to get involved or be part of an episode, email us at themarketingdepartmentpodcast@gmail.com. Make sure to like, review, and follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening to the Marketing Department.